3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hi, I'm Gary. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm looking at the brand new 2025 kit of the Artemis Space Launch System rocket in 1/144th scale from AIRFIX. This is sold as a gift set, so it contains paint, brushes and cement in addition to the plastic parts. Now, if you like the video, please remember to let YouTube know by subscribing to the channel, by giving the video the imperial thumbs up, and of course by hitting the notification bell. All of these are free and a great way to show your support. So let's make a start at looking at this release by checking out the box it comes in. So here's the box of the new 1/144th scale kit of the SLS Artemis from AirFix. It's a model kit, so as it says here, it includes 10 acrylic paints, 2 brushes and 2 tubes of polystyrene cement. The product code down here is A50202, and it's a lovely piece of box art showing the Artemis just after these. Yeah, I guess it would be just be showing some stuff there. These after the burnout with the solid rocket boosters, and they've been got rid of because they're just dead weight at that point. Very nice piece of box art. Now the other side of it is the vertical box art, which I'm not going to show you because I don't have enough room for that. But as you can see, it's the thing just leaving the launch pad, and the same basic information all round. If we have a look on the long side here, there's various warnings in, what goodness knows, 14 different languages, okay, across here. There's a little panel pointing out that it is model and tooling designs from 2025. We know that because it's brand new. Over here, there is a tab for 4 flying hours and a reference to the AIRFIX Club. Now, if you're a member of the AIRFIX Club and you want to collect them, you can collect these flying hours towards another kit in the future, a free kit in the future. However, if you're not a member of the club and you've got these, or if you are in the club and you don't want to collect them, please do consider sending them to Models for Heroes. They can turn them into models that are then used to help serving and former members of the Armed Forces and Blue Light Responder Services who are dealing with mental health issues as a result of their service to our nation. So it'd be a great thing if you're not going to use these to collect for your own kit. Please send them to Models for Heroes. Okay, let's have a look what we get inside this rather large box for our money. The box opens at one end. It's not a lift-off type box, it's an end opening box. And let's see what we get inside. There's quite a lot of things, I suspect. There we go. So inside here we have the instruction sheet, and with it a decal sheet. We have the container with the pots of paint. As you can see, most of these are this sort of brick red orangey type thing. It's a red one, an orange, black, silver and gunmetal, which is kind of interesting. 1, 2, 3, and 10. Yeah, 10. That's interesting because a lot of this thing is white. But anyway, we'll have a look at those in a little while. And then there's 2 big plastic bags with all the parts for the rocket. And there's another plastic bag with the base. But let's have a look at all these different bits in a bit more detail. Okay, so this is frame A. These are the body of the central booster. This is the base for the first stage engines and the skirts that connect the base of the first stage to the engine mounts here. This is the top of a pressure vessel in here. I can't remember whether the fuel or the liquid oxygen goes on the top. I think from memory the oxygen goes on the top in here. There's be like a fuel stage and an oxidizer stage inside here. So this is just the top, the domed top of the pressure vessel, I think, for the oxidizer. These are the caps of the solid rocket boosters. Those are the base skirts of the SRBs, and these are the connectors for the solid rocket boosters. This is frame B. So we have here body of one of the solid rocket boosters, some bits for the main engines, and I guess this is something to do with the next stage, the manned stage. And then there's this, I don't know if that's a feed pipe or a vent pipe down the side. It'd be odd to have a feed pipe down there because it would get too warm. But anyway, I don't know. I'd have to go and have a look at the schematic for the actual rocket. But anyway, 2 of the 4 main engines and the solid rocket boosters on this frame. And we have an exactly identical frame B. So we have 2 of each of these. This is a little bit, yeah, a bit, I'm not entirely convinced by that. Anywho, these are probably, because there's 2 of them, these are probably the SRB nozzles as well. Then we have frame D. There's lots of bits of pipe work. There's the interstage for the capsule and the, I guess somewhere that's going to be the motor for the capsule section. It's got a built-in escape rocket here. These are the pieces for the capsule stage, I guess, with these. Yeah, that's a pressure vessel, top of a pressure vessel, I guess. There's another one there. Yeah, very small rocket. I'm guessing that's going to be the propellant rocket for the interstage. These are going to be the rockets for the escape system. Then we have this piece listed as C1 on the back. And this is what's going to hold the rocket as a base. Where if you want to display it, you can put the SRBs on here. Main engines will sit in there. And then you have something that I guess is supposed to look a bit like the launch structure. And there's a piece here. You can probably put a decal over there saying SLS Artemis or something like that. We'll look at the plastic itself now, and it's okay. It's nicely enough moulded. I mean, the thing with this is it's not actually flown yet. So I don't know how much detail you can get on what these things look like. The plastic has got a slight texture, very, very slight texture to it. It's not really shiny on the main body, which is a good thing. It's quite a matte finish because of the glues they're using on the composites. But I would say, oops, there we go. Get that out of the way. I would say it's not earth-shatteringly highly detailed, in that, you know, aircraft of this size and scale have got a lot more detail to them. But then, as I say, I don't know how much detail we actually know of these things yet. But the plastic is okay. It seems there's nothing on here that looks awful to me. There's no obvious short shots, he said, questioningly. No, nothing obviously bad here that's not missing or hasn't been injected properly or whatever. So, yeah, the plastic looks okay. On these other pieces, there are some noticeable mould lines on some of the parts, but I don't know whether or not you actually see those. If they've been clever, then those are hidden by other parts of the model, so you never see them again. These braces look okay, but you know, they just have they don't have a sharpness to the mould. You know what I mean? They don't have like a really crisp part mould. Now, they've gone with white plastic. Okay, now their normal plastic now is like a slightly brownish grey. So I'm wondering whether in going for a white plastic, they've had to compromise on some of the flow abilities of the plastic itself, which means you're not going to get the absolute crystal clear markings and mouldings that you do with the, some of the grey plastic they've done recently has been exceptional. Here, these external pipe work here, they look fine. They're okay. They're complete, which is nice for a moulding. There's not too much flash anywhere. on them either, which is also very good. But then it's a brand new mould, so there shouldn't be any flash at all, really. That's sort of extra. Some of the, I don't know, some of the connecting bits look a bit weird, but that's just my jaded eye as a model maker. I'm sure they're going to be absolutely spot on when we come to make. I've been told the fit on this kit is astonishing, so let's see. One thing is not great is this very large piece that runs down the side. You can see there's a definite kink in it, and if we look this way, you can see there's a very definite kink in it indeed. Now, I don't know how easy that's going to be to get out. I might have to use some hot water just to let that release and get straightened out, but I'm not entirely impressed by that, to be fair. Okay, these are the paints and everything else that comes with the kit. So you've got 5 pots of Humbrol number 100, which is like a brick red. There's a scarlet red number 19. There's an orange 18, a black 33, a silver 11, and a gunmetal 53. I'll probably use these. I'll be spraying the thing, so I will be using some paints. You might as well get those because it saves me having to buy some new paint. I may use this one as well. I won't be using the red or the metallics because I'll do metallic finishes on them. But, you know, I guess by now the Humbrol second generation paints are working their way into the system. They don't look too awful. In fact, they look reasonably well mixed. On the older ones, you could see they'd separated out really badly. These seem to be much, much better. So maybe they're all Generation 2 paints. I don't know for sure. I'm guessing that they probably are, looking at these. Also, these bigger numbers are indicative of more recent paints. You get 2 paint brushes, a number 0 and a number 4. A 0 for more detail work and 4 for the broader area painting. And you get 2 tubes of polystyrene cement. To be honest, it's not the greatest cement in the world, and these tubes are such old technology. I mean, they were doing these in the 50s and 60s, for goodness sakes. It's really easy to overdo. I would get something like a Revell Contacted Professional, one with a metallic little tube on the top to give you a precise application. These I would really not use if I were you. If you have to, then okay, fine. There are ways around it, but I'd prefer not to. I'd go back to the shop wherever you bought this from and buy some Revell Contactor instead. Unless, of course, you bought it from Airfix, in which case you can't do that. So this is the Decals sheet that's supplied. All these bits go on the Solid Rocket Booster 1. These bits go on Solid Rocket Booster 2 with NASA logos and all the rest of it. The core stage has these ones here. The upper stage has these ones. And then the base unit. Remember, there's a little plaque area on the base unit. That's a decal that can sit on that as well. So fairly straightforward looking and well laid out. And the colours are nice as well. The NASA Meatball Blue is good. The NASA Red is good. And it's a very different colour. The blues are very different to the ones used in the Stars and Stripes, for example. And indeed, I think the red is different from the NASA logo to the warning blocks on the core stage. These are made by a company called Cartograph. If you don't know them, they make the best decals in the world. These water slide decals are superb. So these will be grand. They'll work really, really well. Yeah, but why don't we have a bit of a closer look then? You can see just how detailed these things are. So there we go. There's a nice close-up of the really high detail pieces, the NASA Meatball logo there and the United States flag underneath the upper stage work. And you can see the printing is absolutely so sharp and so well registered. It's lovely, all these parts nice and clean and crisp. And there we go. All these caution symbols, really, really nice. Remove before flight blobs. That shouldn't be there. If you're doing it as if it's actually taken off, then of course you wouldn't put those on, because that would be a bit of an issue had they left them on. So here are the instructions. It reprises the box art of the portrait format because it fits the portrait format of the page used here, of course. So nice thing to remember. It's not glossy print, so the blacks don't really shine through, so it's not something I like to cut out and put on your wall necessarily. But anyway, it's nice enough reprise of the box art. On the inside, these used to be a separate thing that they would put into starter sets in particular, but now they've included it in here, and it's a good thing, because this could, in theory, be the first kit that you make. And I noticed there wasn't a difficulty rating on it, which is kind of interesting. It may be that you haven't made a model kit before, and so there are some things that are quite useful to know, and some things like it would be useful to have some extra bits and pieces. Don't worry about a drill, you're not going to need a drill, but tapes or pegs, some clippers would be really good. Scissors, well, mainly for cutting the decal sheet up. Tweezers for some small parts. There's not that many small parts, but yeah, could be worth it. Nail file is going to be your best friend, because when you cut things off the frames like here, it always leaves a little nub, and you want to get those rough edges cleaned up with nail file or sanding sticks if you wish to get hold of them. But then just some general hints and tips about making things using decals and so on and so forth. But yeah, if you've not made anything before, that's actually pretty useful. Then we start off with the instructions themselves. This is some information about the SLS Artemis, and then some specifications of them here in English, French and German. Inside they'll be in Spanish and Swedish as well. There are some warnings. Don't give this to kids under 8 years old, and do it under adult supervision. And there's some warnings about the glue and things like that on here in, again, about 14 different languages. Assembly instructions, again, brief and generalized assembly instructions in 14 languages. The translation of the assembly icons, the icons they use inside the instructions, what they actually mean in those same languages. Advice for supervising adults and safety rules, again, multiple languages. All of this is because this is a gift set, and it's probably, it could well be built by someone who's new to the hobby, has never done this before, so it's good advice. Then we get to the instructions themselves. We start off here with the main body of the spaceship. There's bits here that are shown in green. You need to nip those off with your cutters and then sand it back down, because they're moulding marks and things like that. You don't want them there, they don't belong there to actually fit together. Putting all the stuff in between, this gives structural strength and stiffness to the body of the rocket, the skirt, the engine assembly, so on and so forth. All of this goes through. You'll see bits in red. The red bits just mean you did this in the previous step. So here you say you've added these 4 things to one side of the rocket. So in the next step, they show you that's what you've just done, and this is what you're doing next. It's kind of useful. And it just goes through building this massive tubular structure with bits and pieces of detail. Depending on how you're going to paint it, depending on how you're going to approach the paint process, you may want to paint things at different stages. So what I tend to do is go through and just point out, do this later or do this after spraying. I'm going to be doing this with quite a ambitious, I would say, way of doing it. So don't necessarily follow what I do with that, because I'm trying to do something and I'm not even sure it's going to work out, but we'll see whether it does or not. By the way, they do every now and again have the little paint call-outs here in the numbers. If you want, I would go through and just put in underneath what the colours are as well as numbers, just so it reminds you of what. No, that should be silver, for example. Then the solid rocket boosters, very similar process of building things. There's a right way and a wrong way of putting some of this stuff in, so it shows you what is the right way and what's the wrong way. Again, bits in green you cut off. These are like excess pieces of plastic that are part of the moulding process that you don't need for the actual kit, so they get chopped off as well. it's all relatively straightforward, and they're quite blatant about what bits go in where. You know, they've got letters, ABCs and stuff like that. They're very good instructions. They look very basic, and they are very basic, but it's important to follow each step, because sometimes there'll be something like there'll be a catch for the next stage, and it belongs there, it doesn't belong there for the stage to sit correctly, things like that. Then we get to the actual crew capsule area with the little rockets I mentioned earlier, the escape rockets. This is probably the more difficult part of the build. If you're completely new, is building this structure of these cross braces here that are thrust members that transfer the thrust from the first stage here to the subs upper stages. That just stops it all collapsing basically in real life. So that's going to be quite difficult because you've got to build a ring of them. They're in blue here, by the way. These bits in blue are there to remind you these are supposed to be there. Just because there isn't a little knob on the end of this bit here, this little square thing isn't here, doesn't mean it shouldn't be on the other. It should be on the other three, because that's how you're going to actually put them into the frame and set them all in the right place. So that's to watch out for. You do cut off the two bits marked in green. You don't cut off the bits marked in blue. And then that's all there is to it. I mean, then once it's all done, you sit it on your display stand and everything's hunky-dory. So that's the instructions. They do give you a painting reference sheet, which is quite cool. So it shows you which bits are brick red, which bits are orange, so on and so forth. Oh, gloss orange and matte red brown. I call it brick red and orange, but there we go. It's a gloss orange, which I'm not entirely sure whether that's gloss, but hey ho, we'll run with that at the moment. Now, there's a lot of this that's normally you would paint white. Okay? Normally you would paint those white, but because the plastic is white, they're saying don't bother painting it. I'm not of that kind of ilk, because white plastic doesn't look like white painted aluminium or composite. I am going to paint the white bits white, even though there's no paint in the pot for it. So if you're doing it just with what you get in the pot, you won't be getting any white paint. Just leave those bits bare. If you are going to spray everything and do it, have it and do it how you want to with textures of surfaces and whatever, then obviously the white bits you're in white. The scheme, again, because it is aimed at largely at new people to the hobby, these parts of the rocket are completely one colour, the matte red brown, what they call matte red brown, what I call brick red. Now if you look at the actual artwork, you'll see there's lots of parts that are a lighter colour. That's because these, I believe these are mainly wound composites here rather than sheet aluminium. So there's going to be a variation of colour. We've got different thicknesses and different stiffeners and different epoxies used to stiffen it. You can see around some of the structural bits. I'm going to be trying to recreate that. It absolutely is not a requirement to do that. Okay, absolutely do not have to do it. I'm doing it just for the sake of doing it. I'm also going to try and replicate some of this wound appearance on here. I don't know yet whether I'm going to manage to do that or not, but let's see how we go. But the main thing for me is I'm going to be doing these different bands of colour just to make it look a little bit more like the real thing. But you don't have to. You do not have to, and it will still make an amazingly good looking model. On the other side of this sheet, of course, is the upper stage of Artemis, most of which you're not going to be painting unless you really, really want to. The metallic silver actually should be pointing to the bottom of the tank here, of course. black, bits of red on those, probably, they're either oxygen or helium bottles for the, either helium bottles to power the, firing the propellants out, or they're oxygen bottles for the capsule. I'm not entirely sure which. I suspect they're to do with the propulsion system. Anyway, the rest of it's all white, so you just leave it as it is, and there are other bits you paint silver. By the way, the reason I got A, B, C and D down here is the different views. So if you've got the thing sitting there, then A is as if you're looking at that side, C you're looking at the other side, B and D, so yeah, are from the respective actual sides as well. So it just shows you like where the US flag goes and things like that. This is a bit of an oddity, to be sure. On the one hand, at over £40, this is a long way from being a kit for a casual starter to the hobby. Yet on the other hand, AIRFIX clearly mean this for new modelers, both from the level of complexity and detail and from the fact there's no white paint. The white parts are expected to be left unpainted in the bare white plastic. I'm told by a very experienced modeler that the fit of the parts is very good indeed, which is great, but they do seem a little lacking in detail, possibly because I don't think anyone's entirely sure of what the detail is on the SLS yet. Anyway, I think it'll be a fun build, should present relatively few challenges in construction, although painting may be a different issue, and it will look pretty cool when it's finished. It will look especially cool next to a Saturn V at the same scale. Luckily, I just happen to have a box of that in the stash. Of course, the Saturn V was the last rocket to take humans to the moon, some 53 years ago. Now, if you've enjoyed the video, please do remember to let YouTube know by subscribing to the channel, by giving the video the imperial thumbs up, and by hitting the notification bell. Thanks so very much for watching today, and goodbye.